and welcome to this episode of ArtsAbly in Conversation. My name is Diane Collin. This series presents artists, academics, and project leaders who dedicate their time and energy to a better accessibility for people with disabilities in the arts. You can find more of these conversations on our website, artsably.com, which is spelled ArtsAbly.com. Today, ArtsAbly is in conversation with Alex Bulmer, a Canadian playwright and theater artist working in theater, film, radio, and education. You can find the resources mentioned by Alex Bulmer during this episode on ArtsAbly's website in the blog section. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of ArtsAbly in Conversation. Today, I'm with Alex Bulmer, who is a Canadian playwright and a theater artist. She works in theater, she works in film, radio. She works also in education. She does thousands of things that we will discover today. And Alex, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you.
So I would like to know a little bit more about yourself. So can you tell us about your background, how you started in theater, everything that is part of your history as an artist?
Sure thing. I had all intention of being in the theater or being an actor, I guess, from a very, very, very young age. I grew up sighted. I did not know I was going to be diagnosed with an eye condition. I had no idea. My ambitions were all coming from a sighted childhood. And I think that's significant because I think that I do believe that those of us who had the privilege of being not disabled for the early part of our life carried a certain level of ambition and a sense of entitlement, into our 20s and 30s, etc. And so I definitely had a sense that, everything was possible. And I was in second year of university when I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. And initially, the doctors said nobody wants to see a blind woman tripping across the stage. So that's a nice start. I decided to ignore them. And I got my drama teacher at university introduced me to this amazing woman named Jojo Rideout, who is a voice teacher and is still teaching voice to this day in Canada. And I started to work with her studying voice for actors. And I loved it, but I wasn't ready to dedicate myself to being a teacher. At least I didn't think I was ready. So I returned to my first ambition, which was to become an actor, even though I knew I was going to lose my sight. And I was in second year of acting school at what is now TMU here in Toronto when my sight started to reveal the difficulties I was going to have. And so I decided to leave my training after 2 years and go to England. I was accepted into the top training school, the top theater school. Actually, it was then considered the top in the world to study voice for acting and for theater. So that's what I did. And while I was there, while I was studying voice, I was invited to be a voice teacher on a theater workshop run by Grey Eye Theatre Company. And Grey Eye Theatre Company was the UK's, and still is, I guess arguably, It's considered the UK's leading disabled-led theatre company. Uh, I hesitated at first. I thought, "Oh no, I don't think I want to be identified as, those people." Um, but I then changed my mind and thought, "No, Alex, be open-minded." And honestly, I think it took about, I don't know, 15 minutes being in a room with all these incredible people where I thought, "No, I don't not want to be uh, associated with these people. I need to be with these people." Like, it just, my entire sense of um, self and of what is possible and the potential of theater and performance and creative thinking and imagination just erupted over that week for me. And I have never turned back. I have worked in disability arts since. I returned to Canada and started disability arts programming here in Toronto. And I then went on to do a lot of performance art, a lot of drag work, a lot of queer theater. That was sort of my step towards political theater, I guess, was through the lens of queer theater and queer performance. And then I wrote a play called Smudge, which was an exploration of my journey towards blindness. And that play was picked up by a UK theatre company and produced in the UK in 2003. And when I got myself back into that country and saw what was happening with disability theatre, 13 years after I had first been there, I just so wanted to learn more. And I applied to the government, and I was very lucky. The UK government awarded me a highly skilled migrant visa based on my skill set, which was, I had trained as an actor, I had trained as a voice teacher, I was part of the disability community, I'd written, a produced play. So I had an unusual set of skills, and the government felt that I would be a really valuable contributor to disability and performance in across the UK. So that's what I did. I went and worked in the UK for 15 years, and then I returned back to Canada, and I've been here for 8 years, basically doing all of the things I've just mentioned.
So when you were at Grey Eye, what was the mood, the ambience over there? I wonder if you can tell us a bit about these years that you spent there.
Yeah, okay, so my first encounter with Grey Eye was, as I say, it was in 1990. And it was, the room was full of joy and sassy assness. Like, there was no like precious. It was just super funny people, really adventurous, wild imagination, like a real, avant-garde uh, feel, energy in the room, and a fierceness, and definitely, now how do I explain this? Definitely a political, really strong political passion behind the work, but it never felt like the politics were leading the work. It felt like the art was leading the work, and the foundation, and it had this deep political foundation. Its roots were coming from a real political belief and movement in that country that started to really pick up momentum in the 80s, that disabled people must have equal opportunity across all sectors of society. But the art and the creativity just seemed to be the lead in the space. And that was so joyful. And that was the same as I worked there for 15 years. and I worked with Gray Eye for a number of those years. You know, we were all very political, but it was art that was driving the work, which I'm not always sure. Well, I don't always feel that, and but I definitely felt that with Gray Eye.
Mhm. And so you also led a quantity of other projects during these years in the UK, because if I'm not mistaken, the particularity of the UK is that they give some money to the arts for disabled artists.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is something called access to work.
Mhm.
And I truly believe that access to work is the game changer. We don't have it in Canada. And when I talk about it, you know, I talked about it a lot when I first came back, and then I started not talking about it because I thought I'm just probably making people pissed off because I don't want to come across as if I'm saying, it's hopeless here. But I wish that we could galvanize as an arts community, and I don't mean just the disabled arts community. I mean the entire arts community, because what access to work does, um, that's truly significant, is that it enables people to be self-employed. So yeah, you can work for a company in Canada, and that company can, and when I say company, I don't mean like necessarily an arts company, but just any organization, you know, go and have a full-time job with an organization, you know, go work for TD Bank. Well, yeah, sure. The organization, the business, can apply for funds to cover the access needs of their staff, but that funding stays with the company. It doesn't go with the staff member when the staff member decides it's time to leave or go freelance or whatever. So it's always attached, that access funding here in this country is always attached to businesses or employers. And in the UK, it's directly attached to the disabled person. So if you want to be a freelancer, if you want to be self-employed and be an artist or an actor or a director, and you know, work for all sorts of different companies, which is what most self-employed artists do, you know, or get project grants to do their own work, you have access to work funding all year round. As
Mhm.
long as you make it's a threshold. I think you have to make £6,000 a year. If that's what you're making, you can get access to work. And I can just give you an example. I just had mine reapproved because I'm moving back to the UK. I'm going to spend more of my time back in the UK. I'm going to have £100,000 to support me over 3 years. So it's something like 30, I think it's something like 38. Oh, so it's more than that, more than £100,000. Which is, I think, I don't know what that is in Canadian dollars, but it works out to be something like $68,000 per year, guaranteed for 3 years. So that's a game changer, because that means I have somebody who can support me, even if I just want to go to the library and read a play. It's amazing.
Yeah. So this
Actually, it's
kind of,
not. I should say it's not amazing. It just makes sense because it enables people to work and thrive. And it gives someone else a job. So two people are working. And economically, you know, if people are interested in, like, you know, the ching ching of it all, the dollar signs, it actually, every pound invested in this program returns £1.50 to the treasury. So it easily pays for itself.
mhm. Plus it really supports the initiatives. Okay, let's build a project together with this and that company, and there is this kind of freedom of creation that comes with it.
Absolutely, because you're so right. It liberates a disabled artist to move widely across the arts sector, as opposed to, you know, only being able to work for organizations that are eligible for access money. So here in Canada, the Arts Council gives access funding to disabled led companies, arts companies, because they have a limited pot of access funding, and so they prioritize those companies that are identified as disabled led. Well, that's great that they're prioritized, but it's not great because it means that a disabled person really is only guaranteed to have their access funds met working for only those companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think all artists all artists deserve the opportunity to work with whatever organization is interested in collaborating with them and vice versa. So I find that, really problematic. I think it also is preventing disabled leadership from flourishing in this country because, and I can speak from experience, if you're disabled and you're the leader of an organization, an arts organization, whose board doesn't want to transition into the potential of being disabled led, then your organization isn't eligible for access funds. So how in the world can you take on a leadership role if the organization isn't eligible for access funding? And I had to leave an artistic directorship because of that. So there's a lot of, the funding structures definitely make a difference, I think. All that said, I am really encouraged by the state of play in Canada now versus what it was, let's say, when I left in 2003. It's, we've come a long way, and I think our potential as artists is just so strong. I really believe disabled artists bring so much to culture and creativity and sustainability. I mean, I think more than most people, we understand how to negotiate barriers and how to pivot and how to be flexible, which are all, these are all words that are associated with creativity. And I think we're inherently great leaders because we're constantly having to find solutions to a lack of access. So basically, we rock.
That's a good definition of us. We rock.
we rock.
Okay, so when you just before coming back to Canada, I had the time to do like the 2012 Olympics games, the London Olympic Games overture. That was a big thing, right? That was
yeah.
I don't think
Huge.
that could be done in Canada the way it was done in London, right?
I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I know that having all of that access funding enabled so many of us to participate in the Cultural Olympiad. I was writer and I guess I was writer and dramaturge or assistant director of the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, the sailing, all the water sports. So the Olympics had two centers. One center was in London and one center was in Weymouth. And, little old me from Canada ended up writing the opening ceremonies of the Weymouth Olympics, like the Weymouth centered Olympics. That just still blows my mind that I did that. But I would not have been able to do that. And also the participants, there were a lot of disabled participants in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, not just the Paralympics, but the Olympics. And that required a lot of accessibility support. And the infrastructure for that is is already there. And then, of course, the Paralympics. I mean, what Jenny Seeley did with and she's the director of Grey Eye. So basically, the director of Grey Eye directed the Paralympic opening ceremonies. And I suppose just again, because they have they have the funding to support all their access needs. So they're really able to do big, big, big things.
For sure. I mean, everybody, it's a dream to put all these artists in these ceremonies, the opening and closing, and also to have no barrier between the people with disabilities attending or supporting or volunteering, neither in the Olympics or the Paralympics. It was an amazing event with some flaws,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
always have flaws in that kind of
Yeah.
big event, but
Oh my God. Yeah.
overall,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And also, I also, I'm aware that though that the Paralympics is controversial.
Mhm,
Not all disabled people are keen on the Paralympics, and
mhm.
I do understand that. Maybe that's a whole other podcast, but I think the investment in the cultural Olympiad, all the money that went into creating large scale arts and cultural events that surrounded the Olympic Games. That was a huge investment, and disability arts was identified as a priority. So that helps. And actually, out of that came the Unlimited Festival, which is the UK's big disability arts festival that happens every 2 years at the South Bank Centre. And they have a huge, £1 million budget to commission. I love it because the structure is basically unlimited commissions disabled artists to create new work that will then be shown at the festival at the South Bank Centre. So it's basically it's a commissioning scheme, and it's been a huge success, and that grew out of the 2012 Olympics.
Are you participating?
I have participated. Yes, I've had. I was part of the very first Unlimited Festival. I had a piece at the very first Unlimited Festival, and I had a film shown there a couple festivals ago, and I was initially part of Assisted Suicide the Musical by Liz Carr. That was there also a few years ago. I haven't done anything for a while. I might pitch my recent show, Perceptual Archaeology, or How to Travel Blind, for the festival, because in addition to the commissions, they do curate a few shows, but largely it's new commissions.
Well, good segue. Can we know more about perceptual archaeology?
Yeah, that was so smooth. Amazing. Yes, Perceptual Archaeology, or How to Travel Blind, is a show that I created with Leah Cherniak and a number of incredible Toronto artists. So Perceptual Archaeology, or How to Travel Blind, came out of a project I did in 2014, 15, and 16, which was a travel project. I wanted to follow in the footsteps of James Holman, who was this 19th century traveler who I guess he was like the first known blind traveler who had his travel documented in journals. He was a traveler and a travel writer. And I wanted to be a travel writer, which was something I had discovered while swimming in a pool in Los Angeles. And I'll just tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But basically, the play started off as me trying to travel where he traveled. And it was a disaster. It went really badly. And so I just gave up on the idea of following in the footsteps of some 19th century guy, and reimagined a travel journey that was connected to my way of being in the world, my sensory strength. So I went to the music belt of America. I followed my ears, and then I walked. I followed my feet, and I walked in the outdoors for 128 kilometers across Portugal and Spain. I did the Camino, and both of those things were just incredible, and really taught me a lot about letting go of, well, yes, letting go of sight, but even more specifically, learning how to have a blind imagination. Because I learned from that experience that what I was imagining before traveling, in a sense, was I was always imagining things in pictures, which is so strange because I have been functionally blind for a number of years, but my imagination was very much stuck in my sighted past. So I really learned how to imagine with my ears and with my feet. And I had, I had two incredible journeys. So I wrote a play about it. That's basically what the play is about. It's my whole journey from initially wanting to be a traveler and a travel writer to the completion of the Camino walk and 2 years of traveling, 2.5 years of traveling. But the reason I'm just going back to where I first had this idea of becoming a traveler was in 1996. I was struggling so much with my sight loss. I was living in Toronto at the time, and I just felt like my world was shrinking. So I basically just did the opposite. I got on a plane and I went to Los Angeles by myself. And the reason I went to Los Angeles is because I had a friend who lived there. So I thought, well, if I get into trouble, I can always call my friend. But I wanted to go somewhere I'd never been before by myself and just see what that would be like. And I found myself in a swimming pool at a hotel, having no idea what the size or shape of this swimming pool was, and thinking, gosh, when I could see, everything was immediate. Everything, like, concepts came to me immediately. I just had to look, and oh, look, there's a pool. It's it's round, it's square, it's kidney shaped, whatever. It's big, it's small, and I couldn't do that. So I swam around and around this pool, tracing its edges and listening to the way that the water slapped against the ladder and how it sounded under the diving board. And I came to discover the pool through my other senses, but as if I was a discoverer or an explorer, as opposed to what I refer to as this immediate way of knowing. It took time and exploration to understand the pool, but once I got it, once I figured it out, I understood that pool in a way I never would have had I just witnessed it with my eyes. And that's when I thought, oh my God, I want to be a blind travel writer. This is so interesting. So I eventually did become a blind travel writer and wrote a play.
And I think it's not your first experience of writing about your travels, or because you traveled a lot.
I traveled. Yes, I have traveled. I have traveled a lot. I think it might be. Yeah, I think it. I'm now thinking. Oh, I think this is like this is permanent. I have some kind of travel gene or something, it's in my soul somehow. And that's a challenge for someone who's blind because, you know, blindness is such a familiarity sensitive disability. Once you're familiar with an environment, you're not really disabled anymore. I mean, I'm always blind, but I'm not always disabled. So it unfortunately does throw me into very disabling or potentially disabling environments and circumstances. But I think now that I've kind of found a way of travel that really works for me, it's not so it's not so traumatic. But yeah, I travel. I love traveling. Yeah, you know, I think part of it is it keeps me in the moment. Traveling really, really keeps me present in the way that acting does. You know, I think that's what I love the most about acting is that you have to be so present and grounded. Like you have got to be fully in your body in order to be an actor. Regardless, and it doesn't matter what your body is. That's the great thing about it. That's why, you know, disabled people are great actors because, you know, they inhabit their bodies like any other actor does, and their bodies are so unique and interesting. But that's what, you know, I love that about acting, and I think that's part of why I love traveling.
Does the play start in the pool?
Yes, it does. Pretty
Yes.
much. Pretty
How did you
much.
bring the pool on stage?
Ah, through the magic of sound.
Yes,
Yes,
very good.
we had an amazing sound design. We two sound designers, and they created this beautiful water sound. Yeah. So it doesn't. So yeah, the pool is very, very early on in the play for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, and I know you have a great website that goes with that play, so I'm going to publish that
Yes,
on ArtsAbly's website.
that would be great. I'm really pleased with that website. My personal website sucks. I'm just going to say it. I have been terrible at social media and, you know, self promotion, which I need to do something about that because it's dumb. I mean, we live in a very like digital world. I think because I'm blind, I just kind of I partly ignore it, but I think to a fault. So so you know, if anybody goes to my personal website, it's so out of date. But perceptual archaeology, on the other hand, is still fresh.
Very good. We know each other through a group that is called Creative Connector, and I love this group because it kind of shows the great um, uh, the great number of artists who are working in disability arts. And I wanted to ask you what it is for you to work in the field of disabilities in arts.
Well, it means an opportunity to reshape theater and reimagine process because um, disabled people bring a particular unique set of opportunities to impact creative practice, and a lot of that is because of our differing ways of contributing. Like I need someone to line feed my lines to me when I'm in rehearsal, right? So I wear this little earbud in my ear, and I have someone on a little device that's reading my lines into my ear. And that is that process actually ended up being performed in my play. I did the whole play with an earpiece in my ear and somebody line feeding, and it was so much fun because I ended up playing with that line feeder as the play went on. We became we became playmates on stage, and the line feeder, you know, had some funny moments where he just suddenly was like being, you know, taking over, and it basically my access allowed for a whole set of creative possibilities. And so anyone who brings that into a room, you know, their unique way of participating is going to change the shape of the play, and it's going to change the way the play is created. That is magic. So so what working with disabled people means to me is that the potential for something unexpected and brilliant. And it also means I feel safe. I feel safest when I am working with other disabled people. You know, if I'm the only disabled person in a room, I don't feel very safe. But be it an integrated group or not, but when there are other disabled people in a creative room with me, it definitely changes changes my sense of safety and vulnerability. So I guess it means safety.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like the notion of safety defined like that, because it's also
Yeah.
true. It's we have this feeling of a community of people working together and working better together when we kind of understand what it means to be in a group or in a creative group even more, I think, if
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. And you know, the creative part of it is so powerful and empowering because you know, a lot of the times if you know, being with a whole bunch of other disabled people, it doesn't happen very often. You know, it's not like, you know, it's different than you know, ethnic communities that often, you know, move to the same neighborhoods. You know, that's why we have in Toronto Little Italy and Little Portugal. You know, we don't have little disability, but I wish we did.
That's a great
I'm,
idea.
I'm gonna start Little Disability. I
Well,
said
great.
it here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we would collaborate on that. And not only I mean not only the two of us, we would be a lot to collaborate on that. That's great.
I love it. We have to do it. Everyone listening, we're gonna start Little Disability.
Okay, I see the time going, so I have one last question for you, and it's about meeting people. It's about someone who might have in your career inspired or encouraged you or motivated you. And if there was one person you would think of these people who had some influence in your career, who would it be and why?
Wow. Okay.
Big question,
Uh,
I know.
I know. I okay. I'm gonna answer that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not just gonna give a single answer. So I mentioned Jojo Rideout, the voice,
Yeah.
the voice teacher. Uh, Jojo has been a huge inspiration for me, even though we haven't really worked together very much since long ago. She created some sort of foundation in me that, you know, I think he really created the soil for the roots for a lot of the other things to grow. So I'd say Jojo. Lena Chartron, who sadly died way too young in her 40s. She was a disabled playwright in Canada. Her play, Little Miss Easter Seals, which was actually first done in French. Do you know what Easter Seals is?
No.
I think Easter Seals was a stamp that you would buy at Easter time, like in April
Okay.
or March, whenever Easter was. And I think it was a fundraiser for disabled children or children with polio.
And it's still existing today, Easter seals.
I think it is.
Yes, it
I
is.
think it is. I think it is. And
That's
so
the access to card, I think, in Canada. Yeah.
it is. Okay, that's exactly what it is. So Lena Chartron, as a child, was the poster child for Little Miss Easter Seals.
Okay.
Lena had polio, and she wrote a play about that experience, and it was produced in 1988 at Harborfront Center. And I met Lena, gosh, maybe 1993, something like that, 92 maybe. And I was working for a television program called Disability Network. It was a CBC television show. And so I produced a documentary on Lena and interviewed her while she was the first disabled person to be at the Canadian Film Center, the Norm Jewison Film Center. Like, she was so she was just such a groundbreaker, and she was so full of joy, you know, and that's my memory of her, was color and joy and creativity, and she was a lesbian, and so I just was like, I so wanted to be her. So I have to say, Lena's one of my champions. And then I'm just going to say that whole group of people I met at Grey Eye in 1990, everyone in that workshop changed my life. So that's my answer. 3.
That's only 3, but I'm sure there are so many more.
So many more. So many more. So many more.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And I know we will see each other again in some projects that we will figure out how to build Little Disability in Toronto first.
Yes. Absolutely. We're going to build Little Disability, and I want to do something with music with you, because music has been another part of my life that I haven't really done a lot with recently, and I love to do something musical with you. And I heard so many great things about you from my UK friends, John Kelly and Pickles. I loved you.
Yes.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I love him too.
It's a big love-in.
Loving community.
Yeah.
Okay, well, see you soon, and have a fantastic day and lots of great projects and lots of great positive energy in this in this artistic world that we are building together.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking with me today. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
See ya.